All right. Hello, everybody, to the 7th meeting of the Nixpkgs architecture team. We don't have any other current members here right now, but people are busy sometimes, so that's fine. This week, just starting off, I'll be recording, taking meeting notes and leading the meeting, live stream to YouTube, as always. Administration first, real quick. We have Chris here who has applied, and I just accepted his application. Robert also accepted it, and now we are just waiting for Tom. Yeah, JK?
Wrong button.
Oh. Yeah, and so that's great. Just waiting for Tom. Also, John Erickson just applied to the team, which I accepted, and Robert as well. So waiting for Tom there as well. So that's great. Probably we'll have 2 new team members very soon. Then let's do, well, stand up. Not sure if that's required, but let's see. Does anybody have anything to update? Otherwise, we'll skip. All right. Let's skip this then. So last week we discussed having an agenda, and I didn't make big plans for this, but just before this, David suggested to discuss like an upgrade path for Nixpkgs, whether we should aim for small incremental and backwards compatible changes, or if we should kind of reinvent the wheel first and then worry about compatibility later. I think this is about it, David, or do you want to expand on that?
Not so much. I'm mainly interested in hearing opinions of people who are, of all the team members and other people as well. I just noticed during the previous discussions we had that there were a lot of discussions about like what would be the hypothetical best model for solving X, Y, and then some people came up and said, "Oh, guys, go a bit slower. Maybe we should do." There are so many low-hanging fruits or small changes that we can do to improve Nixpkgs. So we should instead go for that. So since there are seem to be different opinions, I would love to hear what everyone thinks, or maybe there could even be a decision like what are the kind of problems that this Nixpkgs architecture team should tackle. Is it the small things, or do we really want to push for big things? So yeah, I would be interested in this.
Yeah, sounds great. So my opinion on this is that the team should probably be mainly there to solve bigger problems, because smaller problems can generally be tackled by individual people. Although then there's also problems might be small to tackle, but require a big decision to make. And then it's again something not a single person can do. So it's like both, if it's a larger effort required or a larger decision required, I think the team is good for that. Right.
Okay.
Yep. So write down big effort or big decisions. Yeah, Chris?
So I mostly agree with you that our purpose here should probably be focusing on the bigger issues that individuals really don't have the manpower to tackle. However, tackling smaller issues might be beneficial for us to figure out the process by which we do what we are going to do.
How do you mean to figure out the premises?
Well, there is probably going to be some process involved in the decision making, but also in testing and developing these things that we want to do, either while it is in Nixpkgs or before we even send anything to Nixpkgs. For example, we might talk about having a development path that is mildly separate from Nixpkgs, where we can freely experiment with things and test them before we start opening PRs to Nixpkgs, and that is a process that would need to be established.
Yeah, I see that. That also sounds like a good idea, kind of to test the waters with some smaller issues, see how the team should even work and do stuff. Yeah, sounds good. But with the, I guess, with the idea of tackling larger issues in the end.
Yes. Well, I guess the idea of what I'm trying to say is I'd like to get the process out of the way, so it doesn't bog us down once we actually get deep into the weeds with very big and profound issues in Nixpkgs that are actually a lot of work to do.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Also, David mentions kind of so right there's the other concern about compatibility, whether we should. So if there is a change we want to make, should we worry about compatibility first, where we try to? Well, I guess in the end we do need to worry about it, anyways. But should we worry?
We need to worry about the transition path for users. We can't just say everything changes now. Have fun figuring it out. There needs to be a period of transition with anything we do. The bigger the changes we introduce, the more important this actually is, which means we probably should be talking about a deprecation mechanism and period for things that we do, which means that, yes, there is probably going to be no ripping of the Band-Aid, really.
Yeah, agreed. And right, I think we also talked about this in past meetings, and right, generally, right, I feel like we have to find a middle ground here where we do want to make bigger changes, but we do also need a transition path, and we shouldn't sacrifice a good solution just to make it easier to transition to, but we also shouldn't make the transition path so easy that we can't make bigger changes. So I think there's a balance there. But yeah, I think that's I think we're on the same page here. Where yes, does it sound good, David?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really good.
All right, I'll write balance between transitioning and a clean solution. All right, hey John.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No problem. All right. So I think that's that item done. So we just discussed the agenda that David proposed with the upgrade path. Then the other thing I thought would be good is to just look at the current issues and perhaps make some decisions about what is in scope and what not. I updated the issue board a bit today. If that sounds good, I'll start screen sharing the issue board and we can take a look at that together. It's this. All right, I hope you can see my screen now. So this is the issue board, which isn't like super populated just yet. But we have a couple of columns here. We have issues to consider, which are issues that we haven't really decided whether they're in scope for the team or not. And issues that are in scope, issues that are actually done, issues out of scope, and then a new column added by Robert about past issues, which might be in scope, but not for now. And so we have the only one we previously moved to the in scope discussion is the legacy make derivation, which are these issues about make derivation being used as a base builder and it coming with a lot of legacy problems. There's a bit of discussion here. I just created a project board for this specific project so we can keep track of all the kind of issues pertaining to it a bit better. So in here, this is just an initial selection, but we have things like you can link to any issues or PRs from anywhere on GitHub. So I linked to, for example, a PR, I think. Is this a PR? Yes. No, this is an issue about fixing the run hook problem where users forget to have run hooks. Then we have like structured atters. We have a PR by Robert, which adds new source combinators, which I think would be nice. We have RC92. We have, 92 rename dependency attributes, also kind of part of it, opened by Ericsson about the whole matrix of build input names, which also goes into this. How do I get back here? I don't apparently. Oh, here. No, that's wrong. Here. And then I also added some prototypes by people here. So we have David's build modules, which is one of the a prototype for having a new basic builder for derivations based on the module system. We have Git's the reinventing the wheel repository, which uses Ruby for building packages and also has some basic builders worked out. And then also recently Robert made a prototype for a module system that's kind of stripped down to the very basics, where you only have like modularity and composition and types and some very basic things, which kind of keep the spirit of the module system the same, but it should be much faster, with the idea that it could be used for packages perhaps. And so I added this here. So let's go through the other general issues here and maybe have a quick decision on whether they're in scope or not. We have the override mechanism thing. I think that should be clearly in scope, about all the different ways to override packages. This kind of also ties into the make derivation redesign, since a lot of these might be fixed by that, although not package overrides. Override scope not as much. Also, Pierre noticing and what's his name? NBP, call him that. Links to an RFC, a really old one, RFC number 3, which kind of proposes a new override mechanism in general. But yeah, this is the general idea. I think this should be in scope. Are there any objections or comments as well?
I want to object to that, but I might want to prioritize the DCD AutoConfig before overriding.
What is that?
I thought this the earlier one about I guess the overriding stuff, like it's clear what we don't want. I think it's sort of less clear at this time what we do want, and that makes it a little harder to work on. Even, but on the flip side, the like making the current stand of stuff not just this like so many bells and whistles that you may or may not want right out of the box, that has like a very clear like what the problem is and what a better design would look like. If that makes any sense.
So if I get this right, it's not really clear what this really contains, how to solve this, what it means to solve this, kind of defining the problem.
Well, the problem seems well defined to me, but I'm not sure what an actionable solution looks like versus some other ones. I am sure what a decent solution looks like. This one seems like
whatever progress y'all make on this, I definitely would like to be in. This has been like kind of the focus of what I've been working on for the past like month and a half, was like basically just the override system, trying to understand it, and kind of cooking up my own versions of it, like for some of the work I've been doing. But yeah, I'd definitely like to be in the loop on this, just because this has been basically all I've been thinking about for a month.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much connected to the first issue, which is the MK derivation issue. Because if we replace that with a module system, then the whole override problem goes away, right?
Well, I guess there's two things, like how do we compose things and whether they're split off at all. What really feels galling about make derivation to me is like that it's this big monolith, and likewise the stand of setup. Even if it was the most like disgusting, override soup way of splitting it, I would probably still prefer that, because whenever things are split, it's more flexibility, more ability to change things without mass rebuilds. Those are very concrete benefits that also enable further cleanups. So I'm kind of keen on
What do you mean by like splitting up what exactly? Is it splitting up Nixpkgs?
like
or...
there's sort of two parts to make derivation. There's make derivation itself, and then there's that big setup in stand of bash script that is just for make derivation. I mean, I guess you could use it outside it, but that's not really a thing that we support. And for me, like stuff like overrides and things, those are bad, but anything that you can change without a mass rebuild is sort of in a healthier state. Stuff that requires a mass rebuild to change, that feels to me like a real festering wound. And just splitting things up, it doesn't yeah, okay, I'll hurry up. Yeah, splitting things up like that in like almost any fashion seems like a really clear win to me, because it gives us more flexibility down the road, and sort of like staunches the bleeding.
Yeah, Cap.
I have a quick question. Is there ABI compatibility, taking in mind ABI compatibility in your current scope for Nixpkgs architecture? For instance, not depending on OpenSSL itself, but depending on ABI of OpenSSL.
Oh, I think yeah, I mean, I think when you do like the input addressing, right, you do actually like depend on the binary itself. I think with
Input
CA,
addressing doesn't solve that. It solves one layer of it.
Yeah. No, I think I understand what you mean. I think are you asking, like, is there a plan to get more flexibility out of ABI in the sense of like maybe with CA derivations that you could depend on essentially the ABI interface
Yes.
with a variety of implementations? Yes. Okay, yeah. I think like I've done that like on large C and C++ projects at a past job, and like I know you can do it, but I haven't seen that as like kind of a core part of Nixpkgs.
Oh, okay.
I do think it kind of relies on CA.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
It does rely on CA. However, well, we have CA.
Well, we don't have CA in that the support for Hydra isn't merged, and then we can't actually like test Nixpkgs with it.
Well,
it can be done though.
That's nice. Do you have anything on anything open source you can share on that regard?
Yeah, and I think
can you drop it in the chat? Or...
Yeah, I don't think I have anything like written up right now, but I could kind of, yeah, I can cook something up.
Yeah, that would be super nice.
This issue also reminds me a bit of the, if we go here, there's an issue for inconsistent package versioning, which kind of ties into this a little bit, because we have this mess in Nixpkgs with all the different ways in which versions are sometimes duplicated and then updated. And this also ties into compatibility between packages. So like we can't just rename Python, like the Python attribute to point to Python 3 because that would be incompatible. So you need like a transition period, and you need to like introduce Python 3, deprecate Python 2, stuff like that, and kind of having better notion of what a version even means. Like maybe describe compatibility in versions, allow way for that to work.
Yeah,
and I think that's, in my opinion, that should be in scope for the team. Of course, how to actually solve this, I also don't know, and same problem as the previous issue. But I think this is a problem that should be solved by this team.
We discussed for quite some time with a friend of mine how to make Nixpkgs better. And basically what we came up with that it would probably be nice to have provides and requires attributes and packages. For like, we can probably replace Python with PyPy, so they both provide some Python-free interface. You can probably replace OpenSSL 1.0.1 with 1.0.2. So they provide OpenSSL 1. Star. And so on. You can basically replace a lot of package names with provides and solve your dependencies quasi-automatically.
Yeah, David?
David, you might be on mute.
Oops. Okay. Thanks. I also think that this is one of the fundamental problems why Nix or the Nix world has difficulties with these language-specific package managers to have compatibility with that, because what they all do is they do a very decentralized model of dependency declaration. So all package maintainers by themselves declare like a version range, what they accept. And whenever you deal with something like that, you need to have a concept of what a version is and how to match versions, and you need a resolver. And these things Nix doesn't have. So I also think that this is a very interesting problem to tackle.
Yeah, that was I was implementing basically the npm semver parser in Nix to do some of the Node.js work I was doing, and yeah, you could. I mean, I've got that pretty much working on a lot of packages to like basically follow their same semver patterns. Where I mean, you can like glob on major minor, you can do ranges, that kind of thing. I will say, like I started using Nix because I've been using Haskell before way back in the day, and I think anyone that came around that time kind of knows how much of a mess those ranges can turn into. That like sometimes you do need them, but like if you can avoid them, it's good too, because when you do these kind of ranges, like you are doing a sat solver anytime you perform resolution. And if you've got like a sufficiently large package set, that can, well, you're solving sat, so it'll take a while. Yeah, so I did basically that semver parsing in Nix so that I could take like package.json version ranges and match them. I basically convert them into conditionals like in pure Nix, and so you can go and run them to filter a package set to like find the version you want, which works, but you let it get too big and you're gonna run into performance issues.
Yeah, who was next to speak?
I think by like quarter of a second I was close. So I think that is solvable by IFD. Basically, if you're running a proper SAT solver for a SAT solving task, you get quicker response. And yeah, I think IFD, well, the only problem with IFD is that Nix currently doesn't support proper task queues. And well, that's something which, Twix tries to solve this. And I think they're quite successful in that. We're playing
What do you mean?
Twix.
Nix doesn't support currently?
Well, if I remember correctly, it blocks on IFD.
It can't execute IFD in parallel, and therefore IFD is very slow and usually not recommended.
Yes.
Just a quick interruption. I think we just wanted to decide if that topic is in scope or not. Maybe before we go into deeper discussions, I guess it seems like we kind of agree on that being in scope, right?
Okay, I would like to interrupt myself and give John Erickson the word.
Wait, you said you want to do something first and then give me the floor?
No, I interrupted myself to do that.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I think we can have some version annotations and stupid solving, where basically there's no backtracking or anything, and it's just like if there's multiple choices, it just picks one and it goes with it. Also, we could just have it be assert, so you still have to like manually plug in the right version, but some like meta thing will assert, right? And that so there's sort of like a lot of short of full crazy things we can do that still takes advantage of better metadata. And lastly, this well, I'll enqueue it, not go into it now, but I recently overhauled RFC of mine that I think maybe it'll spawn a lot of tasks that may also be in scope for this group, so we can and somewhat related to this, so we could circle back to that.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, hi. So I think here, right, there's the larger discussion of how to do implementation or how to like do a solving. But here, I think this is a much more trimmed down question of just what is the convention? What will be the output of such tools be? without actually trying to specify how that's performed. This is more of a entomological or organizational question, so that the conventions are standard. And I think answering that on its own, or focusing the answer to that for this issue would make some sense.
Yes. So if I got that right, it's you're basically saying to kind of develop standards for how to integrate versions of individual languages and package managers into Nix and kind of integrate with them and resolve across language barriers and things like that.
No, I mean, or at least my impression of this, of your description of this issue, is that this is merely a question of like, what should the naming practice be, not how to do like that full integration and all that. Like, this is simply just like, what should we call these things just so it's consistent?
I see. I did actually kind of have a bigger idea here in mind. I guess I didn't write it down that well. But yeah, the idea goes a bit further, because to clean this up in a nice way, we kind of it kind of leads into a way for how to organize versions, how to resolve versions. And I feel like just kind of having a good naming convention, that could be done by an RFC. I wouldn't mind that, but that doesn't really solve the underlying issue of how to organize versions and packages, is what I feel like. But yeah, maybe I'll write this.
Another interruption. Can I somehow try to tackle that? Like, write myself a stakeholder of this problem or something along those lines? Like, is there an actionable thing I can start doing?
So you're interested about the versioning thing, right? Or
yep.
Yes. I think so the general idea, which I thought this team could work like, was to kind of come up with a problem, clearly describe the problem first, and then try to develop solutions to this, and then we can discuss the solutions and find the best one. And so I think if you want to start with this, you could maybe best like write down a concrete description of the problem, and so we can look at it perhaps in the next meeting or the next week. JK?
Hi. Yeah, there's already an RFC open about this. It's RFC 0107. It's about Nixpkgs version attribute usage normalization. And it's got a bit of discussion so far. I'll put it in the matrix chat as well. But nice. Yeah, I think we should probably go off of that first. It kind of imagines a whole new spec for defining versions. I don't know if that's the correct option to go with. I ran into some issues with this new version in that some stuff hates it, and yeah, I think it's going to be a fairly big deal to maybe go the RFC route. We could do some more minor things just for the package names specifically, and standardize around just the naming. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I noted the RFC down in the meeting notes, and also I'll try to summarize some discussions in the issues later. Cap, yeah?
Sorry, one final thing. I also remembered that there was a post on Nixpkgs about making every package lowercase. I'll try and find that comment. But that could be relevant to renaming stuff and standardizing on naming.
Yeah, sounds great. Feel free to link it in the meetings notes later if we don't have it or the chat as well, the Matrix channel. Yeah, Cap.
Another thing I wanted to mention is, well, trying to make multi-layer builds for Nix packages. Basically, trying to replace stages in current make derivation with actual stages, which basically separate derivations on each on its own. Each on its own builds from the previous one. I've tried to nudge to use support for Nix for that, but I kind of got blocked on it. So I'm interested whether anyone had the same idea or had any progress in that regard. Oh yeah, Fuse. I needed Fuse for overlay FS support, so I can reuse previous layers.
Yeah, I think I think we discussed this a couple meetings ago, and there, I think Alyssa or QILIS, she made very good points for having that, for kind of having staged builds, and the need for this. And generally, the opinion was that yes, this is a good thing to want to have. And I think even wasn't there, David, was your prototype?
Yeah,
prototype
I
have
never
something like
finished
that?
the prototype. The prototype is mainly a brain dump of my ideas, and I was starting with the implementation, but this is not finished. But yeah, I think I also think that this would be a great idea, and it is a goal of my prototype that's yet to be done. The build modules thing that you've already listed earlier, I think.
I've had a working one with overlay FS. However, it was kind of sort of not working properly without Fuse support. And
Can you just post the
instead I
link
used
in the Matrix channel maybe of the architecture?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, but here we have right. It's linked here. David's build modules. But yeah, prototype, but nice to have it here.
Yeah, I'll hope to get the time to finish it soon.
Yeah, but anything is better than nothing already. All right, I do quickly want to go to, so, oh, Armin just posted another comment here. But yeah, I think I do want to expand this issue here a bit with the versions a bit to like how to represent versions and stuff. I think we can generally agree on that we need something better there. And Cap is interested in working on this. And yeah, feel free to write down like the clear problem you want to solve, and then also what solution you could propose, or various ideas. Anything is good to have.
My comment was just more free association.
Yeah, but I'm gonna move this to in scope though here. I think that sounds good. We also have the going back to the override mechanism. We discussed this a bit about whether it should be in scope. We kind of do want to come back to this. I think even if we don't really know how to solve issues right now, I think like this project board is more meant as to what is in scope, what isn't in scope. We don't need to know a concrete solution before we can actually do this. And Alex is interested in working on this and thought about this a lot. I'd love to hear more about that. Like also, if you have anything to share,
yeah, I'm
feel free
posting
to
right
link
now.
it. Yeah, sounds great. But I'll also move this to in scope for now. I think that sounds good. I'm sure we can come up with concreter ideas to solve this. And again, these issues also relate to each other in some ways, like override etchers, override derivation relates to the whole make derivation redesign things. Yeah.
We maybe later might want to split up the legacy standard and make derivation thing maybe into multiple issues, because I think different people have very different ideas of what should be part of this issue, kind of. But maybe we can do that later.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Right, it's a really big issue. This project board is, I think it's more meant as like a big, very large ideas, and within those, well, it hasn't really been implemented that well, but within those, kind of creating a project board for these individual issues where we collect more smaller scoped ideas and kind of what could be part of this, what shouldn't be part, things like that. But yeah, we can split it up, tackle individual issues as needed. I think that's good. All right, let's also go through these issues real quick. I don't want to take up too much time, but just so we know kind of what other things are tracked here. One issue is package metadata, which is kind of really vague right now. Kind of what does broken mean, license woes about unfree, free, whether it can be redistributed, supported platforms, tagging system for packages. This also relates to kind of cleaning up the file hierarchy of Nixpkgs, which currently contains somewhat kind of tags, but it's really messed up. I think this should be in scope. Not sure how to concretely resolve this. It might also not be a huge issue. I'd like to hear your opinions if there are some on this. Yeah, JK.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff we could put in there. Lots of interesting changes we could do. We could probably break this issue down into each individual problem, like fixing broken as a thing, like how do we make it more useful? Changing licenses could be its own whole thing. Like currently, we have no way of specifying this license or that license, or this license and that license. So that each of these individual bullets could probably be a pretty big piece of work. I don't know if it would be strictly relevant to this group or this ticket, but I'd like some better integration in terms of tracking vulnerabilities. I don't know if it would go in metadata, where we would maybe mark things as patched, or whether we would have like a naming convention for patches to show that they resolve certain CVEs, or if we just have a bunch of data, separately on like some website that people can query. But that's slightly related to metadata, I think. I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Kind of, I guess in general, metadata is kind of everything that's not needed to build the package. It's kind of information you want at evaluation time in Nix that you don't need to build the package to actually get to it. And so I think the things you mentioned are in scope for that. But yeah, I think that sounds great. And I think it is in scope for since these are very big issues and need like tree-wide changes to actually have a good effect. I think they are in scope for the team. They'll move to in scope unless there's any complaints. All right, let's go to the next one, package structure. So it's hard to know for new packages to know where, for new contributors to know where to define their package. The package directory is really arbitrary in how it's laid out. There's this all packages as well, which is just really awful to insert something into. I think this is very much in scope as well. This has plagued a lot of users, and I see essentially everybody that contributes to Nix packages needs to deal with this. It also goes a bit further. That's Valentin from the documentation team. He also has an interest in this, about how kind of cleaning up the Nix packages structure so they can write documentation that kind of matches the structure. So, for example, like currently the doc directory in top-level Nix packages only relates to really the package section, whereas the Nix packages doc directory is under the NixOS directory. It's kind of cleaning this up, kind of perhaps moving doc to under packages, cleaning up the structure of packages in general. So we have like perhaps stdnf should be separate since it's not really packages specifically. Things like that, just file structure cleanups. Any comments on this, or complaints about whether this should be in scope?
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, moving the docs closer to the code they relate to seems like, good idea to me.
All right, sounds great. I'll move to in scope as well then. Okay, next one. This is a bit of a, well, I haven't really written down much here, so honestly, I'm not sure if we should discuss this yet, but general idea that there's too many PRs, too many issues, that it's really hard to deal with them. This, does it tie into Nixpkgs architecture? I'm not sure. Does this team want to solve this? Personally, I don't really, but yeah, Chris?
No.
That sounds very clear to me.
It is an issue, one I have complained a lot about to a lot of you, and I agree that it needs solving, but I don't think that's in scope or even on the table for what we are trying to do here.
Yeah, I think I'm generally of that opinion too. I think, yeah, it's, I'm not sure. Do we have a concrete reason why this specifically shouldn't be in scope? I guess it's not, since it's not part of the actual code of Nixpkgs. It's more of a kind of organizational thing. Although Nixpkgs architecture team can be seen as kind of a leader of Nixpkgs itself, and so
it is a very big issue to tackle, and it is primarily social, as many issues are, but this one is overwhelmingly social in nature. It's a manpower issue. There's too few people that can actually help reduce the queue. There has been some effort towards automating some of it, mostly not very successful, really. Probably the most successful, and also for me the most controversial, is just stale dot closing issues that are too old, which is fine. There's also closed issues that I didn't care about, well, because I wasn't around to respond to the email or whatever. And I mean, what else are we going to do about it from the architecture point of view that we're trying to take here?
The merge train topic is part of this, right?
Yeah, but let's let JK speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say I generally agree that the sheer count of issues shouldn't necessarily be a focus of the architecture team, although I guess if we are looking at Nixpkgs as a whole, maybe tackling a couple of things could help reduce this list. Like, I don't know if it would be within our remit to look at some of those automation options, like it's been mentioned a couple times that a bot like Bors, where you can just kind of type things in chat to get merges or whatever, would be very helpful. Like we could have rules where maintainers can update their own packages, or if two maintainers approve something, they can merge it, stuff like that. Again, I don't know if that would be in scope as part of architecture, but if it's not us, I guess which group would it be?
Yeah, that is a good point. It's the last thing you said about who does really fix this in the end, and I think to some degree it does tie into architecture, but not code architecture, but social architecture, and where issues go, where package updates go. This also needs to be architected in some way. I do think it might be in scope, but maybe not for now. I think we should probably defer this to at least later, if at all. Does that sound good to you as well, Chris?
Yeah, I think so.
So I'll move it to the paused section here of the board. All right, just a couple more. We have unify package.override and override attributes. This is actually, I feel like this is the same as the other issue.
Yeah, accidentally. I have a comment where I was like, "Oh, I thought this was the other one." Whoops.
Yeah.
Not a part of the general override issue.
Yeah, they are. I do see how they're like kind of related though, which is like, I think this one related more to like when I'm writing an overlay, or when I'm writing an override. How can I apply those in mass, or like how to organize those in a way that's a little bit more sensible. But yeah, I do think it's very related.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the next one right away. This is one is John here again? No. But John Erickson talked a bit about GCC cleanups and stdinf cleanups. I'm actually also going to do C compilers and stdinf. The reason why he mentioned this was because he argued that a lot of other cleanups in Nix packages can be done once this is done, because currently stdinf and C compilers and things are very legacy in many ways and intertangled. But I think John knows most about this. I'm going to leave it in to consider for now. And once he's here, can give us some feedback. We'll get back to this. Now this one, this is actually what is this? I can't see where these issues are in. This is in the Nix packages repository. Just added this today. Valentin from the documentation team asked me whether this should be considered by the architecture team. And so the idea here is that, right, a lot of packages have these customizations available, like with PAM, with timestamp. Enable GUI is something I like to mention as an example. But these don't really have any conventions to them. So he mentions here there's with PAM support, enable PAM, use PAM. And so it's really hard to really know how to customize this. Let's go a bit down here. All right, it makes writing overlays harder. So the issue is mainly about establishing a convention for how to name these flags. Now I think, I'm not sure. I think this could be part of the issues in scope, but it could also be a more underlying issues that we should try to solve, perhaps, about discoverability of these flags. At least I think we talked about this before. That really it's hard to know what you can do with overrides. Yeah, David.
I feel this is related to some of our issues, and I wonder if we maybe should add an issue that's called something like package configuration interface, because all of these we have issues concerning the overrides, or even two of them, and like kind of the general problem is this package configuration interface, which we discussed already a lot about, and I felt the main idea was to have some kind of module system, like the Nixos module system, which is discoverable and so on. So maybe the names of the issues we have so far are not good, or maybe we should add a more general issue for package configuration interface, because then it would then all of this could be part of that issue.
Is there, so like I know like the config attribute that you pass into the Nixpkgs function, I know that you can use overrides to like actually control these flags, but is there like a, if there was a way to like basically just like set them maybe as just like flat attributes, like, you know, turn them on and off, without having to invoke an overlay, that could simplify things a bit maybe.
I think that is mainly what config is, but it's right. It's meant to be like a global flag and not it for individual packages, but it is kind of the same idea, right? And I think there is pulse audio, like pulse audio support or something, which is used by a lot of packages. But yeah, config is kind of separate to overlays. And related to that, I think there's also potential to introduce other such attributes, because overlays are kind of shitty in many in many ways, and so
it's just painful.
Yeah, kind of improving that with something better than having a separate way to configure that, I think, is in scope. Yeah, but yeah, that ties into that. Yes.
I think the question is always, do we want to spend our time on, like, it feels like this is kind of a small issue. If we know that there is a big change that we can do, for example, using some kind of module system for packages that solves all of these issues, should we spend time on these individual issues, making up a naming convention for this and this? I don't know. I think that's something that we should make a decision, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Kind of right. We shouldn't focus on smaller issues when there's bigger issues that could be fixed, and then fix a whole bunch of issues along with them. Yeah, we are out of time, but yeah, I think that's good. I'll not do anything to this issue for now. It should probably be specified as an item of another issue, and right, I'll think about creating a package configuration interface issue, which kind of groups these issues. All right, but yeah, I think without further ado, thanks for joining, everybody. And yeah, see you next week, hopefully.